What is the state of modern conservatism in America?
They're demon rats.
No, he's a rhino.
Is it strong and reliable, capable of preserving our constitutional republic? Or is it weak, pathetic, and unprincipled?
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
On January 20th, Trump will be inaugurated once again as the President of the United States.
The theme for this year's Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
Also on January 20th is so-called Martin Luther King Day. Now, while Trump is giving his speech, I'm sure he's going to invoke Martin Luther King and talk about how great of a man he was. The problem with that is King was no conservative.
Undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power.
In fact, most of the things that King advocated for were actually hostile to America, not pro-America, contrary to what you've learned in your public schools. So why is it that so-called conservatives insist on placing MLK on this pedestal? Trump isn't the only one.
Goes against everything Martin Luther King has ever told us.
The Reverend Dr. King famously said,
I have a dream that my...
I have a dream speech, right? One of the great speeches in American rhetorical history.
He was passionately pro-Constitution.
As eloquent and polished as many of your favorite conservative influencers and commentators are, why are they so naive to the clandestine and covert nature of Marxian globalists, credulously going along with the propagandized narrative rather than challenging their audiences to not be so simple-minded when it comes to what's really at play?
Nearly 60 years later, radical far-left Democrats are doing everything possible to eliminate this dream through the implementation of critical race theory.
How can you take a stand against critical race theory and DEI and Black Lives Matter when you support the civil rights movement, which is the very foundation on which those things stand? There's another thing that will be happening on January 20th. I will be releasing a project, or at least part of a project, that exposes the civil rights movement for what it really was. The Bible says, do not be taken captive by hollow and deceptive philosophies. This isn't about Republican versus Democrat. The truth is deeper and bigger than that. The question is, are you ready for it?
Welcome to the Standardoftruth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and welcome to the show. You guys, I see so many of you have joined me in the live chat already. Y'all already cutting up. We ain't even get started yet. I'm trying to can, but I see you guys. Welcome to so many of you who watching me on YouTube. We were having trouble streaming to Facebook. If there's somebody out on Rumble, hey, we love you. We appreciate your support over there on Rumble, even if it's just one of y'all out there. Thank you so much to Shamika, who has kicked off the show with the first super chat of the day. Thank you so much, sister. She said, sorry, I've been MIA. I've getting married. Yes, ma'am. Hashtag busy. You never have to apologize, Sister Shamika, for spending time with your boo thing. I understand. I love you. I'm so grateful for your love and support tonight. So, listen, y'all. I want y'all to grab your coffee. Right, grab your coffee, grab your tea, or that bottle of Pepto-Bismol that you keep nearby for when the Democrats start talking, because today we are going to be diving deep into a number of things. I know you guys saw the thumbnail and thought that I was going to talk about the debacle of the DNC leadership election, and I've queued up the video. We might watch it for a little bit, but what we're going to be diving into, I want to talk about the original gangster of election theft and intimidation and manipulation. And collectively, I call all of those descriptive terms, I apply those to the Democratic Party. So we're going to expose some truth tonight that the mainstream media and the liberal elite, they would rather you never hear. They love it when you black and slow or white and ignorant. They love that. They love it to act as if, election fraud allegedly and political manipulation, those are recent phenomenon that have nothing to do with them. But the truth is that Democrats have a long, well-documented history of lying. First of all, we're going to talk about a lot of lies tonight. And in addition to the lies, we're going to talk about the violence, the subjugation, and the intimidation of how they use all of that to steal elections and to maintain their grip on power. And so today we're going to contrast an event that happened in 1875 in Mississippi that many of you may not be familiar with. And then we're going to contrast that with the modern day tactics that they still use to control the black vote today. Now, if you let them tell it, if you let the Democrat Party tell it, they will tell you that we are the champions of civil rights. We are the protectors of the poor and the defenders of the disenfranchised and the loving, benevolent caretakers of Black America. Child, please listen. I'm going to show y'all something. I had one of the fans of the show sent this to me in Facebook Messenger. And y'all, I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry if you've been trying to reach me through Facebook Messenger. I don't check it like that. It's too many. The notifications is too much. So I kind of just normally don't check it. But I had time this particular day. And a good brother in the Lord sent me this. Let me show y'all this. Okay, can y'all see this right here? This little screen is showing you, it says the history of the Democrat Party. And this is the part that I want you to focus on. It says the Democrat Party, the party of everyday people. For more than 200 years, our party has led the fight for civil rights, healthcare, Social Security, workers' rights, and women's rights. Okay, this is the part right here I wanted you guys to focus on. I'm gonna make it a little small. I'm still here. I'm just behind the veil, So let me make it a little smaller. Okay, I know that's too little and y'all probably can't see that, but it's this first little paragraph right here that I was like, ooh, they just lying. This is the nonsense that I wanted to show you because first of all, that first paragraph is a bold-faced industrial strength, like USDA certified lie. It's just a lie, right? Like, so the Democrat Party, they had the audacity to write, not just there, but I found several other websites where a lot of them have scrubbed it. I think this one got scrubbed. Let me show you this one right here. Now, this came from Democrats.org. I think they've since scrubbed this section right here, but I got the screenshot where it says, for more than 200 years, our party has led the fight for civil rights. Now, we can talk about healthcare, or should I say socialized medicine is what they really mean. And Social Security, I ain't got no smoke for Social Security. It's very important. Workers' rights, which is really like unions and more control, government having control over the production of labor. But the part that I wanted to focus on right here was the for more than 200 years part. I know that seemed real insignificant. And y'all are like, okay, I don't understand the problem. Like, why is that factually inaccurate? The reason why this is not true, and you have to know a little bit about history for this to make sense. So I'm like, so y'all are the party of civil rights, Social Security, women's rights for 200 years. I'm like, so let me get this straight. In 1825, right? 1825, while y'all, meaning Democrats, were still running slave auctions. I don't know. And drafting new laws to keep people that look like me, my ancestors, and maybe some of you out there, my brown subscribers, in chains. Y'all were simultaneously leading the fight for civil rights. Like, how does that work? Can somebody make it make sense? I don't know. Maybe my math is off, but 200 years. Let me pull up my little trusted calculator. Let's see here. Okay, so what year is it, y'all? It is 2025. And when I subtract and do 200, that's 1825. So I'm like, y'all were running slave auctions, right? And then drafting new laws to make sure that Black folks remained slaves. Y'all were fighting for civil rights. Okay, fine. My question is, who were y'all fighting for in 1825? Y'all, mean Democrats, because it sure wasn't Black people, right? Now, Harriet Tubman, she was still trying to map out the Underground Railroad. Frederick Douglass, he hadn't even run away yet. Nat Turner was still gearing up for a slave revolt, but no. According to the Democrats, they were just out here marching with the NAACP, pushing for affirmative action, I don't know, drafting universal health care bills in 1825. Is that how history had happened? I don't think that's how it had happened. But the cognitive dissonance here that I showed you, let's look at the lies again. Okay. This gonna be a long one. I think this topic alone, I got a good hour in me. So, like I said, get your coffee and get your tea, because we're gonna be around. We're gonna be a while. But this is what happens. That right there, this is what happens when historical revisionism meets just straight up delusion. And I know y'all saw some of that delusion this week when they were trying to elect a new chair and a vice chair. I saw a lot of delusion on their stage. And I don't even, this little delusion right here, let's not stop there, right? These are the same folks who want you to believe that Kamala Harris was out here with a plate of collard greens, with a fake Black grandma, probably named Mabel, I don't know, just to convince you that she was down for the cause, power to the people. And she invented a whole Black grandma to legitimize herself with Black folks. And basically the narrative was, oh yes, my grandmother used to tell me girl, stop. Ain't nobody buying that. Now, there might be some of y'all on here that bought it, and now you realize that you got had. It's okay. We still love you. There's room over here for you if you realize that you got played. But that woman changes ethnicities like some people change underwear, right? She Black on Tuesday, South Asian on Wednesday, and I'm just, American. By Thursday, she just an American. Never mind her upbringing in Canada or her history of locking up more Black men than a Monopoly game. No, she got a fictional Black granny, so it's all good. We just gonna act like none of that stuff matters. And then we get to Dementia Joe. We're going to get to Dementia Joe. He don't have dementia. No. Dementia Joe don't got dementia. He's just a charming old man with a speech impediment that kind of makes him forget everything and causes him to shake hands with imaginary friends. And then by 6 o'clock, he just needs a nap. Like this man had the nuclear codes. But we were supposed to believe that he's just, he just need a little extra time to sound out his words. This, you guys, this is the tip of the iceberg of the Democratic Party playbook. These people will look you dead in your face, say something insane, and then act like you're the crazy one for questioning it. They will rewrite history, as we can see, for more than 200 years. They claim to lead the fight for civil rights, and I don't know how that's possible when y'all was fighting to maintain slavery. Like, you wanted to secede from the Union to keep your slaves. Where was these civil rights at? They rewrite the history, gaslight an entire population, and then when the truth comes knocking, they just pretend that it never happened. What I realized from watching the party leadership debacle on the stage with all the weirdos and the misfits, what I noticed is that Democrats love virtue signaling. Oh yes, they love the virtue signal. They do it like it's an Olympic sport. Oh yeah. They will kneel in kente cloth, cry all kinds of fake tears. They will host panels on systemic racism and white supremacy. Oh, they will do all of that, talking about systemic oppression. They'll rename a street after MLK, but when it comes to actual policies that, I don't know, may actually help Black folks, you get crickets. Absolute crickets. They'll throw up these symbols, right? They'll throw up these symbolic victories, so you're not really paying attention to the real damage that they are doing. They don't fix the hood, no. But they'll paint Black Lives Matter on the pavement right next to the potholes. Don't pay attention to the potholes, just Black Lives Matter. That's all they want you to care about. They don't create jobs. They don't have a clue how to do that. But they'll tell you that the biggest issue in Black America is pronouns and climate change. Meanwhile, your gas is at $5 a gallon. Well, if you're on the West Coast, here in Georgia, it's close to $4. You know, gas will be $5 a gallon. And then little known other facts, they're not trying to, improve the school system. No. If you say we need school choice to improve our school system, no, little Ray can't read past the 3rd grade level in a public indoctrination center, but none of that matters. They refuse to fix it because they like it that way. Now, let's be real. Their entire political playbook, it's one long, just book of lies. It's a book of lies, and what they'll do is, it's a book of lies, and it's one long con. They'll steal, or should I say, allegedly, they've been stealing elections, I would say, ever since forever. And today, I know you're not supposed to say that, so let me sanitize my verbiage like they kind of sanitize their history. There's no such thing as a stolen election. That's not what it is. What we intend to prove tonight is that what they do, which is nothing new, it's just the same old playbook with a remix. We're going to get into some history. Ain't it Black History Month, y'all? Since it's Black History Month, we're going to take a trip down memory lane, and we're going to talk about election theft 2.0. That's what we want to talk about today. So before I analyze the foolishness of that, the DNC leadership, they were trying to choose who's going to lead them, lead the path or whatever. Before we get to that, I got a whole lot of other stuff to talk about. I want to talk about 1875. That's what I want to talk about. See, back in 1875, there's something interesting that happened. In 1875, the Democrats, they weren't even pretending to be nice about it. They weren't pretending to be nice about it. They were having or should I say devising a full-blown election theft starter pack. And I know y'all are like, where's she going with this? I got to slow drag this for a minute, move some stuff out my way and get comfortable. So when I say they launched this full-blown election theft starter pack, what I mean is it was complete with mobs to attack political rallies, right? We had voter intimidation squads, and we had this whole concept of we're gonna do whatever we got to do to kill Black Republicans to make sure that they know that the South will rise again. Yes, all of that was Democrats. Just, I don't know if y'all knew, all of that was Democrats. So when we talk back to 1875, with all of this voter intimidation, it actually worked. It actually worked. What we noticed is that Democrats, they ran Black Republicans out of office and ensured their stranglehold on Mississippi politics for generations. You're like, April, you're gonna have to tell me more about this because I had not heard about this. All right. So let me just give you guys a quick little history lesson. We want to talk about 1875. I just mentioned that Democrats ran Black Republicans out of office and ensured their stranglehold on Mississippi politics for generations. And then what we're going to do, we're going to fast forward. We're going to fast forward to today, where instead of mobs with rifles, you've got Zuckerbucks bankrolling urban election offices, George Soros money just pouring in to make sure particular candidates get into office. Then don't forget, we can't talk about the Democrat controlled popes of perditions, those bishop of brimstones, those black pulpit pimp pastors who get a whole lot of bread in their pocket to make sure they stay on code with the right messaging. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the ballot harvesting scams that are wrapped up in the whole Souls to the Polls events. And then we're going to talk about some new, these are not new, these are like old tactics. The whole, we're going to do a fish fry, and we're going to do sandwiches with sweet tea, which I call like liquid diabetes in a red cup. They will offer whatever they got to do in exchange for their own, for oppressing, I should say, their own people, and making sure that they maintain subpar living conditions. So it's the same game, different tactics. We're going to break it all down. And so I hope you guys are ready, because I'm ready to have a good time tonight. So let's take y'all back. 1875. 1875 is when I was studying and preparing for this show. I pinpointed this particular time in history for a specific reason. What I learned is that in 1875, this is where the modern blueprint for election theft and Democrat shenanigans were birthed. So you think the Emancipation Proclamation comes down 1865-ish. And now you've got this 10-year window. And there's this event, or should I say this segment of time, where it was called the Mississippi Plan, right? 1875, this is a very pivotal year in American political history. First of all, you got Reconstruction. Reconstruction is well underway. The Democrats are still hanging on. They cannot accept the fact that slavery is abolished and Black folk are now free to function in their freedom. So because this was such an issue for them, these jokers, after getting their butts kicked in the war, you would think that they were down for the count, kind of like how they are now. Nope. They're too desperate to regain power. So, after getting their butts kicked in the war, they're big mad. They're super desperate. They're trying to figure out, how do we devise this plan to since we can't win on policy, it's clear nobody wants slavery anymore. We got to figure out something else. So that's what they did. The Mississippi Plan, this was their strategy, right? So the Mississippi Plan, it was this brutal yet very, very effective plan in order to subjugate, oppress, intimidate, you name the tactic, they employed it for the sole purpose of regaining power, because the last thing a Democrat hates is losing power and control. They love big government. They love bureaucracy. They love being, I got to be the man on top, and I don't care who I kill, who I maim, who I slaughter, who I oppress to do it. And so the Mississippi Plan was this strategy where white Democrats, they organized, because they're good at that, and they had rifle clubs and red shirt militia, and they engaged in widespread violence, targeting Black voters and Republican whites. They also targeted Republican candidates. They didn't really care what color you were. You was a Republican, and you the ones who's trying to fight to free the slaves. In case y'all didn't know, it was the Republican Party that actively was engaged in that fight for freedom. What was these Democrats' goal? To suppress the Black vote, and to suppress the Black vote by any means necessary. And so, the reason why this is significant is because there was this growing number of Black Americans who were Republicans. They were growing in influence down in the South, particularly in Mississippi. I had a wonderful time preparing for this show, and there's this little known fact is that Mississippi, the state of Mississippi, had the very first Black U.S. senator to serve a full term in the U.S. Senate. Happy Black History Month. Oh, I'm be dropping all kinds of facts today, and they're not the usual swing low, sweet chariot kind of Black history facts where we get to glory in, the first Black to attain some level or achievement that a white person did. That's not where I'm going to spend my time. We're going to spend our time talking about something substantive that they don't want you to know about. So Mississippi had the first Black U.S. senator, and he was the first one to serve a full term in the U.S. Senate. Now, he wasn't the first Black senator. The first Black senator actually came out of Kansas, and his name was Hiram, I want to say Revels, but no, Hiram came from Mississippi. Sorry, not Kansas. Get my facts all mixed up. All right. I am completely fascinated by this information, and it's because the first Black senator, whose name was Blanch K. Bruce, y'all, this gentleman was a former slave. He was a former slave born into slavery in Prince Edward County, Virginia. And Blanch Bruce, which it was not uncommon for this to be a thing, but he was the son of an enslaved woman and her white master. And what's interesting about this is that despite his status of being a slave, Blanch received an education alongside the master's legitimate son. So Blanch grows up during the Civil War. Blanch is like, I'm out. Remember, I told y'all during the war, I always wondered why didn't more Blacks get the bright idea to be like, peace out, I'm leaving, right? Blanch was one of them bad Negroes who was like, oh, I'm out. So during the war, he escapes to Kansas. And because everyone is off fighting in the war, and Blanch was one of those who took advantage of that opportunity. Thought it was brilliant. So Blanch, after receiving his education as a slave alongside his master's legitimate son, his half brother, he leaves, heads to Kansas, and he escapes. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. So after some time, he escapes to Kansas, and the first thing he does when he gets there is he teaches some Black students. He starts providing an education for them, teaching them how to read, just, paying it forward, passing on what he learned from being educated alongside his half white, his brother. He's half white, he's a mulatto, and the brother's white. He's teaching Blacks how to read over in Kansas. Well, he has this passion for his people, so he leaves Kansas and he heads back to Mississippi. So Bruce moves back to Mississippi, and at the time, Mississippi was a state that was growing in significant Black influence. I did not know this. Every time you hear people talk about Mississippi, all I see is cotton plantations and slaves. Had no idea that there were Blacks in the state of Mississippi functioning in their freedom, accomplishing and doing some amazing things. Bruce Blanch, who's one of them, the Black population down there, they're gaining political power. Blanch becomes a successful landowner. He acquires a plantation in Bolivar County. And obviously, he's a Republican. So he's quickly rising to power. Incredible. Well, not only does he rise to political power, let me just give you a general idea of some of the roles that he played. He served as a supervisor of elections. I said, wait a minute, supervisor of elections? Ain't that the people that manage the elections? Yes. So that means there's a Black man managing the elections. He also served as the sheriff. He served as a tax collector. And he also served as a member of the County Board of Levy Commissioners. I mean, this is pretty impressive for 1875, if I must say so myself. Well, his political career reaches a pinnacle. And in 1875, he gets elected to the U.S. Senate. He's representing the whole state of Mississippi as a Black man. Like, that was just, we ain't even got that many Black senators now. So if in 1875 he's doing this, I'm like, okay, that's pretty impressive. He serves a full term as a U.S. Senator representing Mississippi from 1875 to 1881. He is notably the second Black senator in U.S. history after Hiram Revels, who also came from Mississippi. Mississippi's doing some big things. I'm wondering if that's why Mississippi Valley was invited. I don't know. Perhaps the Republicans were trying to get in touch with their actual history, and they wanted some representation from the great state of Mississippi. I don't know. Who's to say? Well, let's run down some accomplishments of Bruce Blanch. One of the things he is known for was his advocacy for Black American civil rights. Bruce championed the rights of Black Americans, and his focus was on the protection of voting rights and the desegregation of public institutions. I'm like, wait a minute. Civil rights? In 1875, that's interesting. I have here that he supported measures to ensure fair treatment and equal opportunities for Black citizens. That's interesting. Who knew this? I wasn't today, years old. I've been working on this show for the past couple of days, but I've never heard the term civil rights pretty much until we start talking about the civil rights operation of the 1960s. But here we have a U.S. senator who happens to be Black, representing the state of Mississippi, whose area of focus was protecting voting rights and the desegregation of public institutions. I have here he supported measures to ensure fair treatment and equal opportunities for Black citizens. And I think it's important to note that during this time, you guys, you actually have a black politician that's actually actively working on behalf of the people he represents, right? Like there's no bureaucrats in his pocket, no lobbyists trying to tell him, keep subjugating your people and keep them poor, keep them ignorant, keep them uneducated. No, he's actually doing the job representing the people that elected him. He encouraged increasing the disposition of, wait for it, Western land grants to Black Americans. So I'm like, here you have a Black senator fighting for a real form of reparations for people who were actually former slaves. He's fighting for that. Like, he was born a slave, so I think he's like, hey, there's some land out west. We need to be actively advocating for these people to be able to have some of these land grants. That's a policy initiative that he actually promoted. Now, 1878, Bruce proposed legislation to desegregate the U.S. Army. And he got this idea because the Navy had already done this. And so he's like, we should follow the precedent set by the U.S. Navy, and we need to desegregate the Army. Now, this bill did not pass. However, he was committed to saying, let's cut this segregation stuff out. The Navy's desegregated. We need to go on and do this. You didn't have these former slaves fight for their freedom, for the Union Army. Many of them didn't really want to come back to the South, but that was something that he was actively fighting for. Bruce also voted against, I found this out, the Chinese Exclusion Act, which sought to ban Chinese laborers from immigrating to the United States. His opposition underscored his broader commitment of civil rights and opposition to discriminatory practices. So it's not that he was anti-immigration or that he was pro-illegal immigration. He just was an advocate for let's do it the right way. Let's do it the right way. Now, I told you guys all of this because this sounds like an amazing, triumphant story. I mean, your pappy was your master. Your mama is a slave. The war happens. You leave and escape and go function in your freedom. Like, all of these things are happening. And you buy land. You run for office. You're serving in almost every capacity and happen to rise to the ranks of U.S. Senator representing the whole state. Like, how impressive is that? How impressive is that? But you see, as impressive as that is, them darn evil and miserable Democrats, they weren't about to let that. No. They just couldn't stomach losing power and allowing all of this progress to happen. They're progressive, but not in the way that benefits others. They didn't want that. So after he gets elected in 1875, y'all, something happened that was just so egregious. I said, these darn low down, funky Democrats get on my nerves. Let me tell y'all what happened, you guys. In 1875, there was this tragedy known as the Clinton Massacre. And y'all, this started out as a peaceful Republican political gathering that had over 1,500 Black Republicans and over 100 white Republicans all gathered together for a political rally. Think a MAGA rally, but in reverse, because it was more blacks than whites, but same thing, right? Well, this rally goes south when it gets ambushed by this white mob, and they end up killing nearly 50 Black Americans and about 100 white folks. No, they killed 50 Black Americans. There was 1,500 Black Republicans present, about 100 white people present. It turns violent, and the white mob, they showed their entire tail. I mean, they just went ham. They was just killing everybody. And over the next few weeks, they went from this event to just rinse and repeat, burning down stuff, just killing folks. I mean, it was just like an all-out, brutal, oppressive, very intimidating, very violent time in history. This is 1875. They set more buildings on fire, killed more people. I mean, this is just like evil personified. And so y'all know me. When I learn new information and I acquire knowledge, I accept it as is, but I'm like, wait a minute. I have questions. I have questions because while this story, yes, it pissed me off and I was all kinds of mad and I was feeling some sort of kind of way. When the emotions settle, you start asking questions like, evil and hatred is in the heart of man. I get that. We're depraved. We are wicked. If left to ourselves, we just don't know how bad and evil we really can be. But what I realize is that as a result of this wickedness, the once dominated or Republican dominated Mississippi state government just goes to hell in a handbasket because these Democrats, right after they start killing people, they start passing laws to ensure that Black citizens now don't even desire to want to vote. They like, we want to make sure they either don't want to vote or when they do vote, they vote for us. And then we're going to make sure that they don't gain political power ever again. I'm like, okay. Now, although all of this sucked, let me just finish up with some more of Bruce Blanch's other accomplishments. Before I move to the next segment, I got to share a little bit more information with you to make some of this make sense. After this Clinton massacre, Bruce pushes for an investigation into this election violence. Like, what the heck happened here? Like, I want names. I want to know who's involved. He's still a U.S. senator. And he pushed for an investigation into this violence. And he's actively advocating. He's advocating for them to conduct an investigation. And to me, I'm like, okay, so this is reflecting his commitment to let's get to the bottom of this. We can't just let these, crazy deranged people get away with this. What can I do to fix it? I'm like, cool. Here's the thing, though. Not only did he actively advocate for the rights of his own people, it wasn't at the exclusion of other people. His other known piece of should I say, I don't want to say activism, but just him being a senator, he supported Native American rights, right? So his thing was, he condemned the federal policies that were against the Native Americans and called for more humane treatment, right? I think that's wonderful. He advocated for honoring treaties and respecting the autonomy of these Native Americans. And there were some other things that Bruce was known for. But I wanted to highlight these things because this is a lot for a senator in 1875 who is Black to accomplish. I thought this was phenomenal. And I thought it was phenomenal because I'm like, he's accomplishing this despite heavy Democrat opposition. And these Democrats are trying to stand in his way. But what's new? I'm like, they do this now. So we should be used to this, right? Well, let me blow your mind some more. Because I already told you these Democrats are out here lying, claiming to have been a champion of civil rights, right? For over 200 years. The math done math, but let me be clear. I just want to go on record and say this. Republicans passed the first civil rights legislation. not Democrats. And I ain't talking about in the 1960s. We gonna get to the 1960s. I'm talking about in the 1870s. Republicans passed the first civil rights legislation. That is a fact. And it was more than 100 years before the Democrats stole the idea 100 years in the future. Just saying. They stole it from Republicans. They stole it, and theirs is a watered-down version of what actually happened. And you might be saying, how sway, April? How sway? I'm about to tell you. The Civil Rights Act of 1870. It was a series of laws that were passed during the Reconstruction Era. And why did they pass it? To protect the rights of Black Americans, particularly in response to the continued discrimination and violence in the South. Let me summarize this key legislation. Number one, the Civil Rights Act of 1870. This is also referred to as the Enforcement Act. And this law was designed to enforce the 15th Amendment, which granted Black men the right to vote. So we already have the 15th Amendment. Black men have the right to vote, but these darn Democrats don't know how to act, don't want these Blacks to function in their freedom. So we had to have a Civil Rights Act of 1870 to enforce what they already had, which was the 15th Amendment. It banned racial discrimination in voting, and then it made it illegal to intimidate or prevent Black people from voting. Great. It gave the federal government the power to prosecute individuals and groups such as the KKK, Democrats, that attempted to suppress Black voting rights. Let's not forget, they love revisionist history. This is the stain of history on the Democrats that they don't want you to know. But we're going to talk about it today. Republicans passed the first Civil Rights Act. I'm just at 1870. We got the Civil Rights Act of 1871. This is the second Enforcement Act. Why? Because these crazy and deranged people don't know how to act. Second Enforcement Act. This one, they had to give it a name. This one was also known as the Ku Klux Klan Act. I said, say what now? Wait a minute. We just had a year before some federal legislation to protect Black men's right to vote. And a year later, they had to pass another Civil Rights Act? Yes. This law aimed to curb white supremacist violence, particularly from the KKK, Democrats. Same difference. The KKK at this time, they're terrorizing Black communities and Republican voters. So the Civil Rights Act of 1871, this allowed the federal government to intervene in states where civil rights were being violated. So we got 1870 Civil Rights Act. They don't know how to act. They got to come back again, 1871, with another Civil Rights Act to keep these crazy. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna call them. These are some evil people, y'all. I mean, these darn Democrats was out of control. This KKK Klan Act permitted military force. Now they like, we got to bring in the military because y'all so out of control. Permitted military force and federal prosecution of individuals or groups conspiring to deprive people of their constitutional rights. It gave victims of civil rights violations the right to sue their attackers in federal court. I'm like, well, good gracious. Number 3, Civil Rights Act of 1875. This is the most sweeping of the Reconstruction Era civil rights laws. This act prohibited racial discrimination in public accommodations. You mean like they ain't got buses, but like horse and buggies and restaurants and stuff and train depots? Yes. This act prohibited racial discrimination in public accommodations such as hotels, theaters, railroads, and other public facilities. I'm like, wait a minute, what year is this again? 1875. It aimed to grant Black Americans full and equal access to public spaces. I'm like, so you mean the Civil Rights Act of 1964 really wasn't original? It wasn't novel? We've been here before? Almost like 100 years difference? Y'all know I'm asking questions now because I'm like, wait a minute, we got the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and then this is 1875. What had happened? That's the question you need to ask yourself. We already had civil rights acts. What was the problem? We're going to get there. We're going to get there. The issue with these civil rights acts is that they lacked the enforcement mechanisms because many states ignored it. I'm like, okay, so states are ignoring it. So we can't say they didn't do nothing. The states are not complying because Dixiecrats, Democrats, crazy and deranged, racist white folks don't want to comply. No problem. 1883. These civil rights acts. This wasn't a win. This is us going back. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down most of the act, ruling in that these civil rights cases, they ruled, and I disagree with the ruling, the federal government couldn't prohibit private businesses from discriminating based on race, which significantly weakened the protections it provided. However, I'm interested in two things. I'm like, okay, let's analyze the impact of these civil rights acts and the legacy of these civil rights acts. These laws were some of the strongest efforts to protect Black civil rights in the post-Civil War period. So it's not like we didn't have anything. They did temporarily weaken the power of white supremacist groups and expanded federal authority to intervene in the South. However, after Reconstruction ends in 1877, these enforcement laws declined. Southern states soon start acting a fool again, and then here comes Jim Crow. I'm like, all right. Here's what I realized. I realized that no one wants to give credit to the Republican Party for all of the federal work that they put in to get these crazy and deranged, evil, racist, oppressive Democrats to do right. However, here's the deal. This is the part that when I fast forward to 1964 and in the 1950s, which we knew there were other civil rights acts that were enacted, no one wants to give Eisenhower and other Republicans the credit that they deserve. And so I'm arguing a couple of things. It's about time. Republicans need to start telling their history and telling it loud. Your messaging is trash. Why is it that no one widely knows this and you got stuff like this on the DNC website where they out here lying, talking about they've been championing civil rights for 200 years? How? How do you let this ride like this? I am a YouTuber. I'm somebody's wife and mama. I should not be on the internet making a big stink about this. Why do you not tell this part of your history? Why do you let them control the narrative? You need to give credit where credit is due. You need to start flexing on your history and stop allowing these darn lying Democrats to tell a distorted version of what happened. However, at the same time, we need to be honest. At the same time, I'm going to say this. Y'all know me. I always come with, I give and then I take away. I know, but I'm going to say this and you can feel however you want to feel about it, but I don't care. I don't care. Here's the truth. The federal government, in my opinion, I just went through several years of Civil Rights Act after Civil Rights Act after Civil Rights Act. The federal government enacted enough laws to protect Black folks from these crazy white folks. And I'm not talking about my white folks on here that's my brethren. We brothers and sisters in the Lord. I ain't talking about y'all. Y'all know that. Y'all know my colloquialisms and how I communicate. And if you don't, get to know them, because I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But at some point, somebody has to ask, at what point were Blacks going to rise up and realize that just like today, nobody is coming to save you? They're not coming. When are you going to stop allowing people to subjugate you and actively put everybody on notice that they can come and mess with you if they want to? But they about to FAFO real fast. Try me if you want to. Come down here and tell me I can't vote. Listen, y'all. I read a quote. Y'all know the big homie, my mentor, my client, Vince Everett Ellison. I read a quote out of Vince's book earlier today. And he said something that messed me up. He said, like all victims in this world, Black people that were mistreated were not mistreated because they were Black. They were mistreated because they were weak. I was like, that hurt. That cut me deep. Because I don't understand how you have this many federal civil rights legislation passed to come in year after year. And at some point, for example, okay, let me get my bearings. Here's the deal. I know that sounds harsh. I know that takes all the steam out of your little victim steamboat. I get it. But just like I tell my kids, you can whine and cry and make excuses all day long, or you can say, what could I have done to get a different outcome? At some point, we have got to stop romanticizing and sanitizing our history as if we bear no responsibility. We have to stop that. That's not okay. I mean, even if the children of Israel accepted responsibility and acknowledged that they were in captivity because they were disobedient, they were like, we was hard-headed, we didn't want to listen, we were disobedient. They didn't blame the Babylonians. They said it was us. We were disobedient. We were the ones who sinned. So what's my point? It's the same thing here. Yes, we were enslaved. But by the end of slavery, just like the white people and other Blacks who had to fight against the Indians to just carve out a piece of freedom for themselves, when are Black Americans going to admit that you needed to bust a cap in somebody's behind? That was like the most logical human step. Like, think about it. If this same group of people, they keep coming for you. You ain't bothering them, but they keep coming for you. Either you got two choices. Either you get as far away from them as possible, go out west, or you like, I ain't going nowhere. You stand your ground, right? And in so many words, you get the deleting. I'm just saying. Delete them. It's real simple and binary to me. Like this is not hard to me. Now I'm sweating. I'm getting so darn frustrated. Listen. Y'all, Frederick Douglass spells this out in like the most profound way that messed me up. So I'm reading in Vince's book. I just read you that quote. Listen to this. Frederick Douglass says, a man without force is without the essential dignity of humanity. Human nature is so constituted that it cannot honor a helpless man, although it can pity him. And even this, it cannot do long. If the signs of power do not arise. Let me read it again. Y'all didn't pick up what I just put down. Y'all, Frederick, he preaching, and y'all, it did this. So we gonna go back. Frederick Douglass said, a man without force is without the essential dignity of humanity. Without force, you're without dignity of humanity. Human nature is so constituted that it cannot honor a helpless man. We can't respect you. You helpless? You didn't do nothing? Oh, no, we can't honor you. Although it can pity him. Oh, they will pity you. Oh, the poor blacks, they just, they can't really do nothing for themselves. They need us. We have to release some of our privilege so that they can, And this says, even this, it cannot do long. If the signs of power do not arise. Y'all, Frederick Douglass could say this as a teenage boy who fought his master, whooped his master's behind, beat the brakes off of him. This man had a hand-to-hand combat fight with the man who tried to enslave him. Well, he was enslaving him, and eventually Frederick was like, yeah, we're not doing this no more. What we not gonna do is I'm leaving and you ain't gonna whip me no more. Do you think Frederick Douglass ever had a problem with his master ever again? No. After he beat the brakes off of him, he left the plantation, never to return again. Never. He never went back. How do you have this much civil rights legislation passed, and then right after Reconstruction ends, them crazy white people who still just want to hate you, they end up implementing Jim Crow laws, and you end up going backwards, not forward? How does that happen? How does that happen unless it was allowed to happen? And I don't want to hear, do you know how many there were millions of us. Millions! The Confederates got their butt spanked. Do you know how much bloodshed and lives were lost? There are no victims here. I'm sorry. I ain't gonna be able to do it. There are no victims here. None. The Democrats have always been evil. And they have always had a desire to restore white supremacy. Yes. They are always the ones, they talk about it today, but they talk about it so much because they're the ones doing it. And they are really the ones who are really good at it. They had 200 years of practice. This lie right here, 200 years of fighting for civil rights, lies. They had 200 years of practice. Yes, they did. So, they've always been evil. They had 200 years of practice. And you think about how white liberals act now when they see Black Americans like me functioning in their freedom. Oh no, they don't like that. What they'll do is when you refuse to acknowledge that they have privilege over you, they've convinced a whole lot of us about this whole white privilege crap. They have convinced a whole lot of us, which is crazy to me. It's crazy to me that Black people actually acknowledge that. Like, that is the weakest position and ideology that one can espouse, but whatever. They don't have the mind of Christ. But just like today, Them Democrats couldn't stand seeing blacks function in their freedom. They don't like seeing it. They don't like seeing it now. And so they did whatever they could to reestablish political dominance and white supremacy down in Mississippi. And they were determined to overturn any gains that the blacks were making down in Mississippi. All of the Republican work that had been done after Reconstruction, it was a constant fight. They was like, we not doing no peace. All they wanted was for the South to rise again. They had this underlying motive. We are going to restore white dominance. Plain and simple. It didn't matter who we got to kill. They don't care. They didn't care. The Democrat Party, during this time, and just like they do today, they sought to gain control of the state legislature and the governor's office. It's down in Mississippi. And they would often justify their actions with lies. They would make claims of corruption. The Republicans are corrupt. Like, you know how they always talk? They swear up and down that the Republicans are the party of white supremacy, but they're really just projecting. Then they would make up lies and claims about high taxation under Republican administration. However, the underlying motive the whole time was to restore white dominance. Like I said, they wanted the South to rise again. Does this sound familiar? Because if you think about it, the strategy hasn't changed, only the methods. The strategy hasn't changed at all. They are still doing the same thing today. They have Joy Reid and overpaid media propagandists to spew out lies all day long to confuse people. You have most of the mainstream legacy media. They're also complicit. Why do you think that they keep harping over and over again, trying to reinvent words, trying to call Trump Hitler? I told you, they weaponize language. And they will socially lynch you in order to gain power, because if people knew who they truly were and what they were actually up to, they would learn really quickly that no one would want to support them. That's what we would discover. So that was a long history lesson. I know it was. And if you are still with me, I am grateful. I am so grateful that you're still here. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and like this video. I don't claim to be a historian, but they about to turn me into one, because the more I keep digging, the more I keep discovering all this truth that was just hidden from me. And the worst thing you can do is lie to somebody like me and then think that I'm going to keep quiet about it. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all. So let's fast forward to today. And let's examine Democrats' election theft shenanigans in the modern era. That's what I want to do. Now, today, you won't see roving militia. You're not going to see that with guns, outside the polling station. Now, they're way too more sophisticated than that. Like Stacey Abrams and her crew and the George Soros of the bunch. You're not going to see that. Instead, the Democrats have refined their tactics, right? They've refined their tactics using manipulation and financial coercion to steal elections and control Black communities. So we're about to break that down. This is probably the most red-pilled video I have ever done to date. Probably so. I don't know. But number one, let's think back to 2020 with the Zuckerbucks. Y'all remember that? That's basically a form of buying elections with big tech money. Now, notice how they are accusing Elon Musk of doing that, when all Elon Musk did was donate to a campaign. This is different. Mark Zuckerberg, that old little scoundrel, he think I forgot about him. He funneled nearly $400 million into election offices, disproportionately funding Democrat-controlled urban areas. You know, urban is code for black, right? Now, this money was strategically used to boost turnout in Democrat-heavy districts, giving them an unfair advantage in battleground states. One of those states was mine, in the state of Georgia. Now, in my opinion, this was nothing more than a digital age Mississippi plan. It's the same thing, different day, right? Where instead of using violence, they just flooded the resources into the area that would guarantee Democrat victories while neglecting Republican-leaning districts on purpose. Now, this is one that you guys are going to be really familiar with. Y'all heard of Souls to the Polls? Y'all probably like, what that got to do with anything? Oh, a lot. Souls to the Polls. Democrats have such a stronghold on Black Americans, and it is because of Souls to the Polls. It's because they use the Black pulpit. They use the Black pulpit, and they use it a lot. They use what I call church ink. Y'all have heard me use that term before, right? That's the Black church false religious industrial complex. It's really a political machine. The Democrats use Souls to the Polls and church ink as a way to gain and maintain power. And see, what happened was the Democrats realized a long time ago that a compromised Black preacher is really useful. And when I say compromised Black preacher, I don't believe these Democrats are corrupting these Black preachers. They come preloaded with the corruption. They already sold out. Their souls are already sold out to the God of this world, so they are really easy to use and manipulate for this purpose. So, for example, you're not going to see somebody like a Bishop Patrick Wooden doing like Souls to the Polls and taking street money from Democrats. That's not going to happen. You're not going to see that happen. But you'll see plenty of pulpit pimps. I could name them: Jamal Bryant, Freddie Haynes, Terry Anderson, what's the dude? E. Dewey Smith. For once, I really think they even got the Creflo. They've been had TD Jakes. I can go on and on and on. But it ain't nothing that an already corrupt pulpit pimp won't do. He'll do something strange for some change. And helping Democrats win elections is one of them. So the Souls to the Polls initiative, it's marketed as a community-driven effort to increase Black voter turnout. But what is it really, right? It's really an organized Democrat voter drive disguised as a church event. For example, how do we know this? Have you ever heard of a predominantly white church having a Souls to the Polls event? No, you ain't never seen that. If you have, I will apologize. If you are a white church attender and you're like, we do Souls to the Polls every year, oh, I apologize. I repent, but I ain't never seen it. They don't, this is a Black church Inc. thing. It is. You're not going to, but if it exists, type it down in the comments, and then we can add them to the list of pulpit pimps that are out and sold out for a bottle of liquor and a pork chop sandwich. But anyway, paid pastors and false prophets. Those are one of the most egregious examples of modern day voter manipulation, right? This is a modern day voter suppression tactic. And what happens is these Democrats backed organizations, they pay the black pastor to stand in the pulpit and to spew out lies. Kind of like this one and a whole bunch of other lies, like abortion is congruent and compatible with being a Christian. They pay these pulpit pimps to spread lies about Republicans. And the one that they love that never gets old is that whoever the Republican candidate is, it don't matter. They racist. It could be a black person. That's a white supremacist. That person is racist and a white supremacist if they are on the other side, period. These same pastors, they will tell their organizations or their, you know what, I was going to say, I have here congregations, but I said it right. I didn't misspeak. These are organizations. That the Democrats, they sell this utopia of the Democrats are your saviors. Like they was pushing Kamala up like she was Mamala and that she was, you know, just the matriarch that we needed in this hour because she was chosen for such a time as this. Y'all heard it. They do that. And then all the while, the Democrat policies continue to destroy the very community where these churches are located. Have you ever noticed that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just my observation. But these policies that the Democrats promote, they're using the black preacher to demonize the other party, never giving their congregation an option to see, well, let's take a look at what the other side is offering. What are they saying? What are their policies? No, it is one-sided. And then it's the policies. Let me go through some of them. These policies actually promote fatherlessness. Oh, no, they don't go into church and say, you know, we want as many baby mamas and abortions as possible. Well, actually, they do. They do. They cloak it in, we got to fight for reproductive freedom because, you know, God gives us free will. And so therefore, we can't honor the biblical mandate to encourage people not to sin. What we do is we try to stand outside of this abortion issue and say, well, I personally don't believe in abortion, but I can't stand in the way of someone else who wants or likes abortion. It is the most biblically ignorant, sinful argument I've ever heard. But how many black pulpit pimps have you heard say that? How many of them? A lot. I've heard a lot of them. You also will hear that they promote fatherlessness by way of, think about these churches that don't preach against promiscuity, right? Which leads to fatherlessness, because if you're having a bunch of babies out of wedlock, there's no families. And so you got broken families. These are children without fathers. They never talk about how to strengthen and restore the black family. You never hear those kinds of conversations. But you also hear them promoting abortion. They actively do that. They promote gun control, which honestly is one of, if black people traditionally and historically understood the Second Amendment, situations like that Clinton massacre in 1875 wouldn't have happened. It just wouldn't have. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just saying, these black pulpit pimps are always talking about, we got to get these guns off the street. And I'm like, you do realize if I don't have a firearm that I am legally and lawfully allowed to carry, I can't protect myself against Taquayshawn and them. But you want to support a gun buyback program. What are we supposed to do when the gangs come a-calling and they're terrorizing the whole community and they know this whole community don't nobody got a gun because your ignorant behind is preaching that from the pulpit? It is nothing righteous by teaching people to disarm themselves. Jesus sent all the disciples with a sword sometimes too. You don't have to be the aggressor, but you be darned if somebody roll up on you and you ain't got something to protect yourself with. All these little storefront churches in the hood and these pastors are promoting gun control. Make that make sense. You don't love the sheep, you a wolf. They also, through the policies, They always talking about, government programs, because they have to push free health care, free child care. They love the free because they a bunch of socialist, Marxist, melanated communists, but they promote policies that keep the community economically dependent. See, the pastor, he will sell, these pulpit pimps who are Democrats, they will sell you on the prosperity pipe dream, and they will sell you on the Lord is putting your spirit to start your business and your season right around the corner. You sow this seed today, the business is it's on the way. They'll say that in theory. But the policies that they support do not promote economic independence or self-sufficiency. All they do is push you back into the hands of massa government. Now, the pastor, he got his own business. It's called, y'all, the church. That's his grift. That's his business. But he ain't really interested in you starting a business. No. Because if that was the case, they would not be supporting liberal policies. They say it with their mouths, but they live like capitalists. But they promote and preach socialism and communism to the congregation, which is government dependence. These Democrat operatives, they use these black church leaders and they entice them with what's called street money. Street money. Think street money is just having a whole lot of cash, because it be cash. It be bread in the pocket. Cash that just miraculously finds its way into the coffers of these black preachers in exchange for his unofficial endorsement. It goes a little something like this. The pulpit pimp, he'll get up on a Sunday and he'll say stuff like, I'm with her. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm telling you, I'm with her. See, the pulpit pimp knows how influential his word is. He knows that if he just says that he's with her, 9 times out of 10, his sheep are going to follow in his footsteps because they trust him. They trust that his judgment is sound and sober on this issue. He doesn't have to explain the issues. He doesn't have to articulate masterfully the policies of why he's with her. He ain't even got to do that. All he got to do is say, I'm with her. Why? Remember, because the other side, they racist. And I can't support no racists. See how it goes? Sound like 1875 all over again. These pulpit pimps are most definitely receiving financial incentives. Absolutely, they are. They're receiving financial incentives to push a one-sided narrative. And this one-sided narrative is that the Republicans are racist and they're out to destroy the black community. So you got to vote blue no matter who. Got to vote blue no matter who. My question is, why do you think so many of these bishops of brimstones all sound alike? Why do they all sound like broken records? Like, why do they all sound like they are reading from the same script? Did they all receive the same memo and just push this button and on cue, they just parrot the same messaging and talking point? Yes. Notice how during the pandemic, they all sounded the same. They all pushed the same vaccine propaganda. They all were hosting vaccine sites at their church. It's a whole network of Democrat-ruled manipulation and coercion. And the sad part about it is most black church attendees, because they are not viewing these things in light of scripture, they go along with it and they don't even think twice or question, why am I doing this? Like, Under normal circumstances, would I just trust the word of what somebody's telling me to put in my body without checking it out first? Or, well, I love this person. They wouldn't steer me wrong and I trust them, so I'm going to just go do it, but I don't need to know what's in it. You know how many Black Americans were harmed from that pulpit propaganda that was pushed by the Democrats? Like, they were sending out emails to these pulpit pimps and they had a script. They had a script to follow to tell these people, you know, those white Republicans are trying to, they want you to die. You gotta get this vaccine. If you don't get this vaccine, something bad gonna happen to you. Well, the sad part is something bad happened to a lot of folks and they're not here to tell about it. And then some of them got prematurely triggers cancer and they're not here to tell about it. Whole lot of people got autoimmune diseases, Bell's palsy, all kinds of issues. They ain't been right since they put that crap in their arm. And they did it because they pastors told them, this is what you're supposed to do. Am I lying? I'm just making all this up. Oh, okay. Here's the truth. They don't want their congregations to know the truth. A lot of these pulpit pimps will push this political propaganda and will do something sometimes. Now, some of them really believe it, but some of them will do something different. They, like I said, they live like a capitalist, but they function in their actions and behavior like the Marxists. They're terrified of their congregations learning the truth. They're terrified that if their congregations ever get the bright notion that the Republican Party was the party of abolition, like that's like this dirty little secret that they don't want you to know. And if you happen to find it out, what they'll do is say, yeah, but you know the party switched. So they can't show you an electoral college map to prove that. They can't go through the voting records of the House and the Senate and the state. They can't do none of that. But they just say it. And we don't fact check. Right? They want you to believe that the Democrats were responsible and have been fighting for civil rights for the past 200 years when in 1825. Come on now. Cut it out. They don't want you to know that the Republican Party, right? And here I am. I ain't an apologist for the Republican Party. I got issues with them. I think at this point we should all be independents. However, there is a rich history of the Republican Party that no one talks about. Right? The Republican Party was the party of abolition, and they were the party of the first piece of civil rights legislation, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. I mean, they don't want Black folks to know that it was the Democrats who fought to maintain slavery. They don't want Black folks to know that it was the Democrats who fought to keep segregation and Jim Crow. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know who Blanch Bruce is either. The U.S. Senator from Mississippi. See, they want you to believe that the party switched. That's what they want. They want you to believe that every ill and every problem plaguing the Black community today is the fault of some rich white Republican somewhere into the abyss. We don't know where they are. Yet the very communities where their church is located in, that's full of poor, broke, uneducated people, is a direct result of Black Democrat leadership standing in the way of true progress. They don't want you to know that. This is psychological manipulation, and they do it to control the Black vote through fear and coercion. They did it in 1875, and they're still doing it today. They're still doing it today. They simply swapped the rifle clubs and the massacres for political bribes and deception. Now, I talked about the Clinton massacre. of 1875. I talked about it earlier. And I told y'all, that saddened me. And I was like, dang, they were like well on their way doing like really great things. But I saw a missed opportunity. And the reason why I'm able to analyze these things and celebrate the successes, but also critique my own, because as I analyze this, the very first question I asked myself was, why would all of these Black folks who are, it's like a baby just learning how to crawl, like they were just learning how to function in their freedom, why would they show up to a mass political gathering without exercising their Second Amendment right to bear arms? I was like, ain't no way. Ain't no way a crowd of that size should have gathered without being strapped. I'm talking everybody. The baby got a gun on her. Everybody strapped. Everybody had a gun. If they were really, I think they let their guard down. And like I said, this is not condemnation. These are explanations. This is a survey of what actually happened, and just trying to adjudicate the matter to be like, this could have went different if this would have happened. Everybody should have been packing heat, because they should have already known that you can't be caught slipping with these darn Democrats. Like, the memo was out at that point, and I think they let their guard down. And believe me, I get it. I get it. If you have if you're in the state of Mississippi, you're like, we got the first Black senator this many years after slavery representing the entire state of Mississippi. It was easy to get comfortable. It was easy to get comfortable and let your guard down. And because I honestly believe, y'all, if those crazy white folks knew that a crowd of 1,500 Negroes was packing heat, they would have thought real twice. They would have thought twice about initiating the attack that day. I'm not saying it would have stopped them from doing it in the future, because they evil. They evil don't rest. Ain't no rest for the wicked. They always evil. But the whole purpose of the Second Amendment was for you to exercise your right to smoke a joker that attempts to come for you and yours. Like, that's just innate. Like, it's part of the reason why the Black community today is overtaken by crime and violence. And it's because we actually vote for politicians who want to take our guns from us. We never truly got comfortable with the Second Amendment, and we've never really used it for our own benefit and protection. Like, why weren't they armed? Why weren't they armed? Listen, like I said, the thing you're gonna learn about me is I can be uncomfortable with the truth. But I'm not going to allow the truth to excuse and explain away if I'm thinking deeply through something and I'm like, yeah, but why weren't they armed? Like, I'm looking at all the different possibilities and scenarios before I am willing to accept that there is nothing that a person can do. I'm like, I got to ask questions. I gotta ask the question that I know, if you one of them Booker T Negroes like I am, I know at least some of y'all were thinking them like, dang, 1,500 Black Republicans and 100 white folks was gathered together. Ain't nobody had no guns on them. What on earth were these Black Republicans thinking? Like, showing up to a political rally without packing lots of heat. Ain't no way. Ain't no way this soon after slavery should any of those Black folks been caught anywhere without a whole lot of firearms. I'm not even going to the outhouse without my gun. I got the pee. Where's Purple Rain? Like, I'm not going nowhere. And it's not about living in fear. It is about being wise and prudent. It's just about being smart. I don't go to the Kroger without my firearm. And it's around the corner. Why? You're like, well, somebody come to get you? They might. I don't know. I'm on YouTube. People crazy. I don't know. Jamal Bryant might want to roll up on the. I'm just saying. Listen, this could have ended up very different. Things could have just ended very different if those white racists had a sneaky suspicion that if they had showed up to that rally, that there was a 50-50 chance that they were the ones choosing violence that day. The possibility of all those black folks being armed and returning fire, they would be like, we need to think this through. We walking in, we might be thinking we gonna ambush them, and we might get some of them, but it's 1,500 of them. I think we should probably rethink this, Jethro. And you know, Jethro, he ignorant, he smoked, he got snuff in his mouth, he just got so much hatred in his heart, he don't care. He like, I just want to go kill some, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, it would have been a whole lot of slow singing and flower bringing, and it would have just been a bunch of white widows doing the mourning. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that to be disparaging, but those white boys would have had thought twice before even thinking about pulling a stunt like that again. They would have thought twice. But since that didn't happen, in my opinion, that gave them the incentive to just keep the intimidation going. They like, well, shoot, if we did this one time and that happened, we got to keep the pressure on. So instead of the blacks rising up and saying, we're not going to be caught slipping like this ever again. You know what happened? Many retreated in fear, and they didn't even try to push back. And that's why weeks after that Clinton massacre, like Senator Bruce is like, we need federal government intervention because the Democrats won't stop. And my thing is, why weren't the free blacks, why weren't they fighting back? I know y'all hate when I don't leave any wiggle room for black folks to wiggle out of. I'm sorry, I can't do it. 1875 is just way too close to the end of slavery and the Civil War for black folks to not have a fundamental understanding of we got the Second Amendment. Freedom is only free if you can be free and stay free. That's all I'm saying. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? I done done a whole lot of talking, and I gave a whole lot of history, and I done told a whole lot of stories. What I am hoping that you learn from this video is how the Democratic Party has never changed. They ain't changed. They've always relied on intimidation, deception. They still out here lying. They lying about who they are and their history. They lied about Joe Biden's mental condition. Kamala was out here lying about her very existence. Like, who does that? Some pretty sick, deranged people do that. They've always intimidated. They use deception and manipulation. Why? Because they want to stay in power. They may got y'all out here thinking that they was a party of civil rights or equality, or no matter how much they keep lying and saying that they are, the actual facts do not bear that out to be true in the least. It just doesn't. It doesn't, because when you examine them today, they continue to use the black vote as a means to an end, offering nothing in return but a bunch of broken promises, more economic dependence, a whole lot of victimhood and pity. And I read to you about the pity part. That's all you get. You get pity. And so my thing is, as believers, we need to be committed to the truth no matter where it lands. And the truth is that Democrats are not the saviors of Black America. They are their oppressor. They're the oppressors. Just like they were in 1875, the Black community is in an unholy alliance with these perverts, these freak, nasty, lying, psychopathic, anti-Christian bigots. That's them. How is that the party of freaks and miscreants? How is it that they got so much Black church support? Is anybody asking that? Why does the party of freaks and miscreants have so much Black church support? Y'all don't think that's just a little strange and incompatible with the God of the Bible? I don't know. Maybe it's me. How can people who claim to be so religious be so oblivious to this? I know this hurts. When I tell you, y'all know I've been on a mad dash to 100,000 subscribers. I can taste it like I am almost there. And I chose to bite the bullet and do this video anyway because I knew I was going to lose some subscribers. I knew I was going to lose some. I didn't care no more. Like when I discovered this information, it got me hot. I was hot like fish grease. I was like, ain't no way I could sit on this and not communicate it in the way that I communicated and leave people just ignorant in the dark. No. Why is it that the Black church puts their full, and when I talk about the Black church, I'm talking about the Black expression, not Black. We know there's no such thing. We're talking about these church Inc., Christian in name only, that complex, that industrial complex. Why is it that they have the full support, the Democrats, of the Black church with they're a bunch of freaks and miscreants? We're gonna look at the video today of the little election thing. I was like, they projected and tried to call J.D. Vance weird. Did y'all see them weirdos? We're gonna look at them in a little bit. I realize that for a people who claim to be so religious but are oblivious to this, it's because the God of this world has blinded their eyes. I am prepared to go on record to say that the vast majority of these church plant pastors, that is a false religious system. It's another religion. I know you have loved your pastor's draws since Jesus was an infant and he can't do no wrong in your eyes. Well, if he supports the Democratic Party, your spiritual health is concerning. Because if he don't have the spiritual eyes to see, because his ethnic narcissism has blinded them so much that this segment of the faith community in America that I'm talking about, they have found themselves with all these freaks, liars, psychopaths, anti-Christian bigots. They've found themselves in a perpetual ditch of low expectations. So the question now becomes, how long do we allow this to continue? Because as it stands now, the Democrats are done, in my opinion. They're so done, one, because people like me, I'm definitely not about to be quiet. Oh no, I'm not about to be quiet. They're out here trying to stop the bleed. They're trying to stop the bleed by attempting to castigate this current administration by calling them racist because they're actually talking about meritocracy again, saying it's time for you to function in your freedom. You don't need these programs. You are equal. If you're the best, you apply knowing that you are the best. You can compete with everybody else. It's these pro-blackity blacks that's out here telling you that you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And so therefore, everybody has to look at you through the lens of your ethnicity because that's the most important thing about you. And it's not. So how long? How long we gonna keep this foolishness up? Y'all Democrats, y'all gonna be out here lying, talking about you the party of civil rights for 200 years, when in 1825 everybody was still enslaved by you. Is that what we doing? And this ain't the only place. Y'all see this one? I found it on several different places. I found it there. I found it there. I found another one. Hold on. Look at this one. No, there ain't nothing there. Give me a second. Did you know? Let me make it bigger. Hold on. Can y'all see that? This one is the Democratic Party of Sandoval County. They all are repeating the same lie. I can't see that. I don't think y'all can see that either. Hold on. Let me do another. No. I wanted to show this. Let me see if I could drag it over. I'll read it. I'll just read it. Once again, they out here lying. For more than 200 years, our party has led the fight for civil rights. How? Y'all, you can't count the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and I'm going to tell you why you can't count that one. I'm going to tell you exactly why you can't count it. Give me one quick second. I want to pull up something. Then we're going to watch this video and clown all the way out. Oh, I'm showing my whole tail when I show this video. I am, because it's just funny. I was just like, no one got a clue that America does not want this foolishness. It's like they don't even care. They lack so much self-awareness that even in their own elections process, it was chaos and confusion because don't nobody know what a man is or what a woman is. And it's just ridiculous. Why am I opening up CapCut? That's not what I'm trying to open. Give me a second, y'all. I want to share with you these civil rights acts that were passed by Republicans well before LBJ gets the credit for that watered down version that he did. All right. Here we go. Is this it? Nope, that's not it. It's way down. Hold on. Is it here? Let's see. Nope. Let me see. It's here. Oh, God, I can't spell. Y'all pray for my eyesight. I got an eye appointment coming. I can't see worth a darn. I really can't. Oh, I got it. Here we go. All right, let me read this to you guys. So before the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was passed, we had the Civil Rights Act of 1957. That was the first federal civil rights legislation enacted since when? What did we learn today, students? Since Reconstruction, Miss April. Good job. It aimed to address racial discrimination, particularly in voting, and was part of a broader effort to advance civil rights during the 1950s. Okay? There were some provisions in it. I'm not going to go into all of it. But who authored this piece of legislation, you might ask? The bill was introduced by Attorney General Herbert Brownell Jr. under the administration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican. Eisenhower advocated for the bill as part of his broader strategy to address civil rights incrementally. He know them crazy white folks down in the South just was wilding out and acting a fool. Then you had all of the Republicans supported by Eisenhower and Northern Republicans as part of the party's historical commitment to civil rights. You had a few Northern Democrats supported, but you know who opposed it? Southern Democrats. Strongly opposed by Southern Democrats who feared federal intervention in states' rights and segregation practices. They wanted their segregation. Segregation now and segregation forever. Then you had so that was the 1957 Civil Rights Act. Then you had another one in 1960. Well, would you look at that? That expanded upon the previous one from 1957, and it sought to address the shortcomings, particularly regarding the enforcement mechanisms. So what would happen is these civil rights acts would come into play, and the federal government would think, okay, well, surely, we've codified it, we've put it down, surely this will work. No, evil got to be, you got to reel the evil in. And it got so bad that now the federal government is like, all right, well, I guess we got to intervene. But remember, it got to the point where the states were like, we can't have the military coming down here, enforcing it and placing military presence on its citizens. That just wasn't a good look. So the 1960 Civil Rights Act, the key provisions of this one was voting records. It required election officials to preserve voting and registration records for federal inspection, saying we're going to come and do a look-see, make sure your stuff is together. It aimed to prevent the destruction or altercation of records that could provide evidence of discrimination. See, they had to do this because just like Democrats do now with messing with ballots and stuff, and they was doing this back, yes, they was doing it back here too. Another provision was court-ordered registration, allowed federal courts to appoint referees to assist in voter registration in areas where discrimination was found. Now, remember, I told you, I understand why they did this, but I already told y'all the solution for this, okay? What Leroy was supposed to do, since he had the 15th Amendment way back when, Leroy was supposed to show up to the polls with his gun in hand like, I'm here to vote, where's my ballot? That's what Leroy was supposed to do. Like, Leroy should not have needed the federal government to come down and referee this. It should have been a whole bunch of Leroys in every community. That's all I'm saying. It says this provision gave courts more direct authority to enforce voting rights protections. Penalties for obstruction, another key provision. It imposed stricter penalties for anyone obstructing court orders or intimidating voters. And then federal enforcement powers. It strengthened federal enforcement mechanisms by increasing the authority of the Justice Department and the Civil Rights Commission. Who authored this one? Just like the 1957 Act, Dwight D. Eisenhower. This is his Civil Rights Act. This is his legislation. Republicans supported it. Few Northern Democrats. They go them Southern Democrats again. They were like, y'all are threatening our segregation. We don't like this. We're not voting for it. So that's 1957, 1960. That is 2 Civil Rights Acts before 1964 even, literally, LBJ just stole it. Because, see, his tentacles was all up in the 57 and the 61, too, because he was trying to figure out, well, how could I use this legislation to win favor with the blacks? How could I do that? I'll have them N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Okay. Yeah. I know this was a lot. I'm going to get to some super chats, and then I want to clown this video for a little bit. How are y'all doing out there? Okay, we got Celine. Hey, girly. Celine said, have you heard of Louisiana Senator John Kennedy? He is a national treasure. He said the woke people hate George Washington, Dr. Seuss, and Mr. Potato Head. It's true. Oh, they actually they hate that masculine exceptionalism of George Washington. And I understand a lot of black people. I have purchased 2 books on this on the Civil War and on the American Revolution, because I was just like, I need to sanitize myself of the Marxist-minded history that I was taught in the K through 12 system. And I was like, I need to just go back to some primary sources and learn why was George Washington such an amazing general and president. And I get it. He had slaves, right? He had slaves. He sure did. And he did not lie about his slaves. He was like, yes, those are my slaves right there. And in his will, He freed all of them and just bequeathed them things. And I'm not romanticizing that either, because owning people is pretty bad. However, if we didn't have the bravery of a George Washington who was in like the wilderness for like 7 years fighting for his freedom, I can despise his slave holding, like that was messed up. But just like white men respected the black men who fought for their freedom, as a black woman, I have to respect George Washington because he fought for his. He fought for his from Britain. Like, we wouldn't have an America if he did not fight. And he resolved to be like, I'm not living under no tyranny of no king. So bring it on, sucker. I'm here. Let's do this. Y'all, George Washington was wild. George Washington was wild. I ain't got nothing but respect for him. I can look back and be like, yeah, that slaveholding was messed up. Him, Jefferson, and his outside babies, all of them was sleeping with their slaves and having babies. Like, this was just a really messed up time in U.S. history. Like, we was just doing all kinds of stuff that you look back today, like, y'all was really off into the debauchery. Like, but what's the difference now? They probably looking at us like, y'all are nasty. So I'm just saying, I'm not emotionally tied to any of this. I can look at it and just be like, this is all sin. This is just sin playing out in the fullness of time. And I'm here to learn all about it. I'm having a wonderful time. I don't know about you. But Brother Bob says, April, those churches turned the Bible and the essential Christian doctrinal statement into a prop. The young seeker churches are no better. Yeah, those are trash too. I don't even. Here's what I would say about that, Brother Bob. Thank you so much for that super chat, by the way. Some of these churches don't even have a doctrinal statement. And the ones that do absolutely use it as a prop. They just put it on their church website because they've heard that you kind of have to have one. But they don't know what they know what they believe, but it's not in accordance with the teachings of Christ. So, and these young, I call them the little young hippity hop, seeker friendly churches are no better. I agree. Hey, Brother Lamont, good to see you, sir. Please kiss liberty for me. He says all of this is so true. Salute. Thank you, Brother Lamont, for your super chat this evening. I'm very grateful for the support that you and the missus have shown me all of this time. I know I get ignorant from time to time. I do. But that's just who I am. You know, that's who I am. All right, y'all, let's watch this video and then we're gonna get up on out of here and go. This is funny. All right, so this is the video. I had no idea it was this bad. What I've done is I've made like a compilation. I've taken some of the worst parts of it and kind of spliced it all together. And so what I need to do here is I'm going to share it, but I don't want to play it right away. Hold on. No, that's not what I want to do. No. What am I looking for? Where is it? Did I bring the video in here? What is this? I don't know what this is. Hold on, y'all. Let me go get it. I'm sorry. Oh, I know where it is. All right. Let's find it. And then we're going to get out of here and go. I call this the DNC Weirdos.
My name is Troy Blackwell. I know that I'm a new face to many of you, but I'm a proud Afro-Latino from the South Bronx, New York. I got into this work because at the age of 18, unfortunately, I was the victim of a hate crime. Today I stand before you as one of the first non-binary candidates to run in the DNC's 177-year history. I'm proud to be the only Afro-Latino in this race. I'm asking you to take a chance on someone like me, a proud, non-binary Afro-Latino from the South Bronx.
The final tally of votes, Troy Blackwell, 0.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry, y'all. Oh. All right. So here's the thing. For me, this is my issue. This is my issue with the left. They have this obsession, and we can call it pride, this obsession with publicly telling everybody who they sleep with. And I'm just trying to understand, why did I need to know that he was non-binary? Like, what was the purpose of you telling us that? How is that going to help us determine how you're going to lead the party? It is telling us what policy initiatives are important to you, but you're going to notice that all of these people are going to lead with some sort of attribute that they want to elevate and celebrate, but none of them have solutions as to how we're going to make the country better, how we're going to lead our party out of this ditch of despair and debauchery, because first of all, they're all just full of debauchery. But I just thought it was interesting that everyone wants to, they want to like one up the next person. They all want to one up. So he's like, I'm non-binary and I'm the first Afro-Latino and I'm non-binary and I'm proud. Like, he told us he was proud 3 times. And I'm just like, and we needed to know that, because like, I have never walked up to a person, introduced myself, and told them anything about my sexual exploits. Like, why is this the topic of conversation in polite company? When did this become a thing? This is why I'm confused why so many of these black pulpit pimps support this party, because this is what they lead with. It's no more like, listen, pimpin', if this is how you want to be, like, you do you, but I don't want to know about it. No, they make a concerted effort to make sure everybody knows how they get down. And it's like, don't nobody want to know about how you get down. We really don't care. Like, no. But let's finish.
Na kosten will yegi a ba a here that needs in. Welcome. The Democratic National Committee wishes to acknowledge that we gather together to state our values on lands that have been stewarded through many centuries by the ancestors and the descendants of tribal nations who have been here since time immemorial. We honor the communities native to this continent and recognize that our country was built on indigenous lands and hope.
My people are.
All right, can somebody help? Like, what language was he speaking? I don't know what language he was speaking, why he felt that was useful or prudent or necessary. It's almost like with each subsequent candidate, they were trying to out-weird the other one. Like, I am way more weirder than you. I'm going to show you how weird I am. Watch this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was sitting here like, what is happening here? And they're all sitting around watching each other be really weird, and nobody knows who the weird one is because everybody's weird. Like, they don't see nothing wrong with each other. I mean, why does everything have to be rooted in, you know, we were formed by the indigenous people, and this country we support the indigenous. I'm like, where did they get these people from? Like, this cannot be a snapshot of America. I refuse to believe that this is America. Americans cannot be this weird and crazy. They just can't be. Am I just naive and living in a bubble that I still have faith, not a heavenly faith, but just like just a level of Americans, we not this weird. We can't be. This cannot be the status quo. And if it is, we should have no problem spanking the Democrats' butt the next time. It's like they haven't learned anything. But this next one was pretty funny. Y'all, look at this next one. This made me laugh. Hold on. Let me get it up.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are sick and tired of being the last one hired and the first one fired. We are sick and tired of the word white, working class, being a code word for whiteness. We are tired, and this is our time for us to rise up. One people, one nation, under the vine, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the vine? What is that? Y'all, when I say that this is the party of liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots, where's the lie? That woman couldn't even say under God. What the heck is under the vine? What are we in a vineyard? What is that? Under the vine? What vine? What does that even mean, lady? Y'all, these people need help. I think they have let people out the insane asylum and said, whoever can just clean up and take a shower, clean up, and get down here to this headquarters and throw your hat in the ring, we're gonna let you go up and give a speech. So instead of her saying, if you elect me as chair or whatever position she's trying to get, these are the issues that I've noticed are important to Americans. Instead, we get a whole victimization speech. I'm sick and tired. We sick. First of all, speak for yourself. Ain't no we. I don't speak French. There's no we. I'm not sick. I'm sick and tired of y'all. That is true. But I know nothing of, the white working class being code word for whiteness. That didn't even make any sense to me. I don't understand this whole we are tired of being the last one's hired and the first one's fired. Speak for yourself. I've never had a problem. I've been gainfully employed since I was 15 years old. I ain't never been fired from a job. Employers were always eager to hire me. You want to know why? I'm about to brag because I presented my best self. I showed up prepared. I rehearsed interview questions in advance. I said, I am going to be the best interview that this recruiter or HR rep has ever had. They're going to love, even if it was performative, they're going to love it. They're going to love it so much I'm going to get the job. I have never been on a second interview and did not get a job offer. Never. I am not exaggerating. Never. It's never happened. From the time I was 15 years old up until 11 years ago when I left the corporate America, I ain't never been the first one hired. The first one fired, the last one hired, or the first one fired. I ain't never lost my job. Here's what I'm not saying. I am not saying that people don't get fired. A layoff is different. Companies change. The organization goes into a different direction. Sometimes they got to lay people off. It is no personal reflection on you. But to say you're tired of being the first one fired, let me tell you something. And this is why this is the part I think that really bugs me and I don't understand. Corporations do not fire their best talent. If you knew how hard it was to recruit for quality employees that actually love their job, show up to work, present their best self, make the company money, which is what it's really all about, right? And continue to participate in their own professional development on their own, taking the initiative to better themselves, they don't fire those people. They just don't. When you are actively competing in the marketplace or the job market, if you're the best, companies will fight over you. They will fight over you. They will recruit you and try to steal you from somebody else if you're really good. You'll have competing offers. So this idea, we sick and tired of being the last ones hired and the first ones fired. Let me explain something to you. I'm gonna take a minute. He might be upset when I share this story, but it's a good story. Sometimes you got to dry snitch on yourself. So my husband and I ran a retail establishment for 11 years. And Joe Biden's economy, we was just like, it's time, we gotta go. We couldn't do it no more. Unsustainable. We was like, we gotta go in a different direction. And both of us worked jobs before we worked for ourselves. And we worked those jobs as unto the Lord. Absolutely. Well, when the time came for us to kind of shut down operations and figure out what we were going to do, I went to my husband. I was like, why don't you go back to the company you were working for before? And he was like, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. I was having this conversation with myself. I was like, he should go back to the company he was working for before. But I said to myself, no, they never hire. I was like, they're never hiring. It's just one of those companies where they treat their employees so well, the pay is really good, and the benefits are so amazing. Like they still offer a pension that people don't leave. People rarely leave. So when I'm thinking to myself, what the next move is going to be, I talked myself out of it. I said, because the chances that they're going to be hiring are slim to none, because throughout the years, I would just always check just to see. And no openings. Fine. This one particular day, I was like, you know what? I was like, Lord, we got to go in a different direction. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to usurp my husband's authority, but we got to do something. So I went on the website and I'm searching for the location here in Atlanta. And I serve open positions. And do you know the very exact role that he held 11 years ago had been posted 2 days before I looked for it? I said, look at God. I said, all right, Lord, all right. I don't want to get ahead of you, but this seems a little sovereign, little providential. I don't want to get ahead of you, but I definitely don't want, to overstep. So I made a phone call. I said, babe, did you know so-and-so was hiring? He was like, no, they're not. I was like, lies. Yes, they are. He's like, for real? He was like, that never happens. I said, that's what I said. I said, listen, it ain't gonna hurt. Just go and apply. He applies. He uploads resume, uploads cover letter. Like in 24 hours, he gets a call. Hey, you come highly recommended. People around here still know about all the value that you added to this company when you were here. Do you remember that widget that you created to help make the workflow go smoother? And Rob was like, no, what widget? He's like, you don't remember the thing. I'm being real general because y'all don't need to know all that. But then Rob was like, oh yeah. He's like, we still use that? We still use that. Rob was like, for real? He was like, yeah. So you know what I want to do? I want you to come in, do an in-person interview. Robert goes in, does this panel interview. And the hiring team had already asked all of the employees, y'all remember Robert Chapman? He like, yeah, I remember he used to be real quiet, don't really say much. What is the point? when you're good at what you do, employers are not looking to fire you first unless your work ethic is trash, your performance is trash, unless you just trash. And I'm not trying to call it, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because that's how it works. This whole, we're tired of being the last hired, first fired, has more to do, it's a reflection of you as an employee. You steal company time. You steal company supplies. You be on the internet when they say you know the company's policy of being on the internet. You ain't supposed to be on the company internet searching that. You're not a victim. You might just be a poor performer, and those come in all ethnicities. So when she made this statement, I'm sitting there like, oh, here we go. Here we go with the boo-hoo, whining and crying. We tired of being the last ones hired. Employers are looking for top talent. And when you are top talent, the chances of them firing you for performance are slim to none. If you get fired, it's because they're downsizing, which happens, or the company just can't support the staff, the payroll anymore. But I tell you what they do with their top talent, they will figure out a way. They'll be like, listen, we can't. We got to keep that one. Maybe we can reinvent this position or put them somewhere else. Corporations, even the ones, none of them have any loyalty to you. None of them have loyalty to you. But they know when they've got good people, they want to hold on to them. You know why? It's too expensive to hire someone new. The acquisition cost is too high. So it makes sense to work with what you got, even the mediocre ones. You just be like, yeah, it's too hard to get rid of her, and then we got to deal with the lawsuit because they gonna be crime, racism. Companies think about all of this stuff. They just don't tell you, but they think about this stuff. So that in that blasphemous pledge of allegiance, that instead of omitting God, substituting the word vine instead of one nation under God, under the vine. Can anybody tell me what that is? What is that? Under the vine? What is that? I don't know what that is. Right. Chrissy's like, if you the last one hired and the first fired, think, what am I doing wrong? No. I'm going to tell you what the Democrats do. The reason why, Chrissy, they can't think, Democrats who like to virtue signal like this, the reason why they can't think in categories like that is because Democrats have trained their people to believe that the problem is somebody else out there. It's not them. Just like as a party, they can't take a look within and be like, why did we lose? Why is America rejecting us like this? Why is it that they don't want to play with us no more? They're not gonna do that. It's everybody else is the problem. It ain't their trash policies. It's not their government overreach. It has nothing to do with the fact that they keep sexualizing our children. It ain't got nothing to do with none of that. No, that can't be it. It's never them. And so on a micro level, with liberal-minded people, unfortunately, they are unable to self-reflect and say the problem could be me, because they've been taught that they are a victim. They are oppressed. It is someone else doing something to them. They're the recipient of the oppression. Let's finish this stupid video. We ain't gonna get through the whole thing because I got to go. Did I eat today? I had a salad probably like 7 hours ago. That's why I'm so hungry. I am starving.
Democrats, hey, I am speaking, and I would love your attention. There is a black woman at this podium, and I deserve your attention like the 11 people who went before me. Yes, I am speaking.
Good evening, Democrats.
All right, here we got the attack of the orangutans. That was an orangutan if I ever saw one. Listen, if you got to get up in front of a crowd and continue to assert yourself to let people know that a Black woman is speaking, they probably really didn't want to listen or hear anything that you had to say anyway. Why do we do this? Why do we believe that it is an effective strategy to communicate to people that we want something from, i.e., their vote, to berate them and to assert that you're a Black woman and that you were speaking? Like, who you think you're running? Who you talking to? First of all, you ain't running nothing. You want to run something, but that ain't about to happen because your attitude is trash. Y'all, it's the matriarchal squalor for me. The Democrat Party, they breed these matriarchal miscreant queens. That's what I'm going to call them. That's a new one. Let me write that one down. Matriarchal miscreant queens. That's a nice accompaniment with the orangutan title, don't y'all think? So this orangutan, who I will also ascribe matriarchal miscreant queen, felt that she had to be real aggressive on the mic and assert herself that she was speaking. And I'm like, were you trying to channel Kamala? Because she tried that during the debate, and it was really rude and disrespectful then, and it's still rude and disrespectful. But what I've noticed is that when they act like this, she thought that was a flex. She thought, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to shut it down. And everyone's going to look at me and pay attention to me. And they still was talking. Wasn't nobody listening. They wasn't listening. Now we're going to have a series of other matriarchal miscreant queens. They about to get up. Watch these.
3 strong Black women standing before you. 3 Black women who, rather than just grabbing a chair, ran for chair.
Te quiero mucho, Papa. Gracias por todo. My name is Artie Blanco, Freddie Blanco's daughter. Vote for me for vice chair.
Look at this room. Yeah, right. Okay, so was that second one? Was that a man? She said 3 Black women. I'm like, you sure? She look a little butch. I don't know. She look like she like women. Latinas got orangutans too. You saw one. She just got on the mic and she tried to rock the mic, all that hollering, and y'all, I'm so sick. This clown show, I'm tired. This wore me out. I laughed, but I think this is because this is like the 3rd time I watched it. It's wearing me out. How many more of these you want to see? This whole thing was just a mess. Here's the part I want to skip to. Let's do this. I want to skip to the voting part. So let me
truly take it in.
We don't want to take it in. We don't. Here's the part. Oh, here it is. No, I want to engage with this really quick. Simone Sanders is going to ask the chair a question.
Our party...
1/3 of Trump's advertising budget went specifically to this one ad. It was about gender-changing surgeries for a small number of transgender, incarcerated, undocumented immigrants. These particular ads ended with the line, "Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you." Governor O'Malley, I want to start with you. How should Democrats respond to this attack?
Notice how that statement, it is a statement of observable reality. Notice how they call that an attack. Kamala made it very clear that she was not for the American people, but that her agenda leaned heavily on the Zims and the Zers. Simone Sanders is up there talking about how are Democrats supposed to respond to this attack. And this white man is so afraid. He knows the answer to this question, but he's so weak and so afraid. And the far left arm of the Democrats, because that's where a lot of this money is coming from, has bound his hands to where, listen to his response. He can't even be honest and be like, you know what? That ad was a masterpiece, and it caused us to lose the election. I know we don't want to hear that, but we need to engage and sit with that truth. If this man was able to demonstrate any sort of leadership and reel in these wild banshees of the left, he would say that Trump ad was genius. And it was the reason why we lost. Because we need to acknowledge as a party that everybody is not on board with the trans agenda. We love our trans people. They are image bearers worthy of dignity, value, and respect. But what we cannot do is elevate their perceived needs, which ends up translating into special treatment at the expense of the American people. We got to figure out as a party how to include them in the discussion as Americans without elevating their transness over their Americanness. That's what he could have said. If the Democrat Party was saying something like that, they might actually deceive some more people into buying that they really believe that. Like, that's what I would say. If I was a Democrat and I was like, I got to figure out how to keep these trans people happy, to keep the pro-blackity blacks happy, keep the elites happy. It's so many different categories and constructs of people that they got to keep happy. If he was smart, he would shut all this foolishness down by saying, as a party, we have failed to take a look within. And it hurts. But we going to sit here and we going to rock in the corner and we going to cry and mourn together. And then after we wipe our tears and pull ourselves together, we going to be like, we need to unify this party and bring some common sense back and move more center. Because if we don't, we will continue to have debacles like this where we out here celebrating who we sleep with, right? How much of a victim and how oppressed we are versus how we gonna get something done in Washington? Because they got the majority now. Like, they got the Senate and the House, and we out here just virtue signaling on who can be the most oppressed victim group. But they ain't learned. They haven't learned, and they're not going to learn. Now, quite frankly, I'm celebrating the fact that they haven't learned. I was hoping, I thought that was a very good question that Simone Sanders asked. And I just knew that man was going to say something real wise and just impactful. And he didn't. Let's see what he said. Hold on. Let's play it real quick.
Our party has to live its values. And you can do both. I thought Governor Beshear's op-ed in the New York Times several months ago was absolutely right. We can focus on what unites all parts of our coalition, right? Think about this in Minnesota. What unites a corn farmer with a steel worker on the Iron Range with a new refugee in the Twin Cities? It's economics, right? It's kitchen table issues. It's what Faz was talking about. At the end of the day, we can focus on that, the things that unite. But when people are being harassed and bullied and pushed out of conversations and attacked, of course, we're going to live our values, because I agree with Governor O'Malley. Everyone has dignity. Our party believes that no matter where you're from, no matter where you live, no matter who you love or who you are, you have dignity, and we're going to fight for you. And that's what we're going to do as a Democratic
But see, that's the problem, Ken. These people don't need nobody fighting for them, because there are no rights that they lack that everybody else has. There's no lack with the trans community. They can come and go and do commerce and do whatever they please. The issue is that the rest of us are not about to halt and reorient language to accommodate their delusion. You are free to believe you are a bunny, but the rest of us are not obligated to buy you bunny food, feed you like you a bunny, clean you like you. No, ain't nobody doing all that. They be like, listen, go on there and play your little rabbit games. But the rest of us, we doing this. And I feel you, Ken. I really don't want to give them any talking points. You could tell that he tried. That was his best effort to help them to realize, y'all, we can't focus on all this other stuff because the corn farmer and the other person, we all got the same stuff in common. He's weak. He's weak. He is not going to be able to shut these misfits down to help them to understand that we will never have power again if we don't lay up off all of this pronoun, sexual deviancy, abortion foolishness. They can't help it though, because this is who they are. They love a good womb assassination. They can't rest unless it's dripping from the blood of unborn babies. They love to celebrate. They the Diddycrats. Why you think Kamala was so comfortable having Meg Thee Stallion at her little opening rally in Atlanta? Because that's her people. That's her people. She felt right at home. She felt right at home with hoes and rappers and weed, allegedly. Here's the other thing. Oh, here's the other part of the video I wanted to engage with. Hold on. Where are we gonna find? Oh Lord, this part right here, child.
So much. Specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race. We have to elect one.
This Negro know he sound ignorant and stupid. He know he sounds stupid. That's why he was struggling. And he's looking around like, I can't believe I just read this. But I'm weak. I'm a beta man and I don't got no backbone. And so this is just what we have to do. Yeah. So let me get this straight. First of all, what the heck is gender balanced? Do you see why Donald Trump had to step in and shut this foolishness down? Do you see why? Do you see why he had to have strong and sharp criticism for during these wildfires out in LA? Because this is the worldview and the mindset that undergirds the fire department out there, and they so focused on making sure that all the Z's and Zims and Zers and I's and are dotted and crossed and T'd and stuff, that they think they make sense. They think that they sound logical and sane. Like he read that, and you can tell in his face, he know it's not, but he has convinced himself that this is how we have to be. So let me get this straight. You gotta elect, there has to be a male, a female, and a question mark at all times. But how do you know if any combinations of those are going to be the best for the job? You don't. Being male, you cannot control. Being female, you cannot control. Being not question mark, whatever that is, I do believe that you can, right? The issue is, what the heck does any of that have to do with skill set to lead the party? Nothing. If you are a Christian and you watch that and you thought that was normal, something going on. I can't put you in the kingdom and I sure can't take you out, but I sure can look at you and be like, the fruit is rotten. There's a spiritual deficiency somewhere if you can watch that and think that there was nothing wrong with that and that was perfectly normal. That was inclusive to you. That was a misfit show. And it's so crazy because after he explained the rules, everybody was still confused. Everybody's still figuring out like, okay, so matter of fact, I'll just play it. Look what happens. Look what happens.
Male, 1 female, and one person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules. To do this, our process will be slightly different than the one outlined to you earlier this week.
I'm going to fast forward it. Now watch this.
Not been elected, or a female candidate if a female has not been elected.
It's even on gender right now.
It's evenly split.
Yes.
So.
I'm so sorry. Hi, Brad Townley, former parliamentarian for the city of Utah. I do have a question, parliamentary query, for the chair, if she would. What happens? So that's assuming that that so few candidates get zero that we can sustain 6 additional losses on top of that. What happens if we have 8 candidates who get zero on this round? Do we have to eliminate those 6, or would they be eligible again on a subsequent round?
Don't nobody know.
So what happens if we?
So it's 4. So
It's down to 4.
Right,
and
but
then
what
it's
happens?
F4.
But what happens if 8 people get zero and then we eliminate 4? Then we've eliminated 12 candidates of whatever's there. So the question is, so it's down to 4. Let's just say that of the remaining candidates, and I'm not doing math, so please correct my numbers on there. What if 8 candidates get zero? We eliminated an additional 4. Do we have, or 9 or whatever candidates get zero? We eliminated an additional 4. Do we have enough candidates remaining to elect a full slate?
Basically, he's saying, what if we run out of trans people or lesbians and sodomites? What do we do for the next round? Or what happens if, because people by default should be thinking in terms of skill set, what happens if we eliminate all the women? Then what we gonna do? Or what happens if we eliminate all the men? What are we gonna do? You cannot let people like this lead your country. I'm sorry. You can, if you are willing to put the leadership of your future on this side of heaven in the hands of people that think like this, something's wrong with you. You need help. You need help. I'm sorry. This is why the thumbnail say the Democrats are done. They are done. I'm talking stick a fork in it done. They've learned nothing. They don't want to learn nothing. They are going to continue to drill down and grind it down to the white meat on this ignorance. I am hoping that they lose more state reps. Listen, the GOP needs to gear up and apply more pressure. The GOP should use this in their next campaign ad. If I was a candidate, I would exploit the heck out of this. I'd be like, this is no way to run a country. Vote for me, and I'll ensure that the people that are in charge are not the ones that are running the insane asylum. Abel Chapman for Congress. You know what I'm saying? Like, the jokes write themselves. The jokes in the campaign ads write themselves. Like, I'm wondering if they realize, you do know this is going to be recorded. Like, we're going to be able to go back in time and watch this. We sound stupid. We sound stupid and crazy. Like, the elevator ain't going all the way up to the top. I don't even need to react to it anymore. This was y'all, I'm after I get some food in me, it may be tomorrow when it happens. I'm gonna link. Where did I get this from? I got it from some other channel. I don't know. You can just Google this and watch the whole thing for yourself, and it is comedy gold. This is why the Democrats are done. And I wanted to culminate my live stream on these virtue signaling hustlers known as the Democrat Party. And I wanted to take you all the way back to 1875 because people need to know exactly who these jokers are. They need to know that these are still the same crazy people. They still crazy. They still racist. They still subjugate, oppress, intimidate, coerce. They just do it different now. They do it different now. And I hope you found some sort of value from the earlier part of the live stream. I had a good job. I had a good time researching this and doing this. They done though. They are done. You don't have to like Donald Trump, but you at least have to look at that leadership after you've dealt with the lies that the Democrats have been telling you and just be like, I gotta at least thank God for him with his arrogant self, because can you imagine if Kamala had won, y'all? God would still be on the throne. He'd still be sovereign. I'd still belong to him. But I'd be like, Lord Jesus, come quickly. Come quickly. Come quickly. Anyway. Right. It was hard, Yvette. I know. It was, that was a clown show. If I ever saw it. The rules, the gender, what was it? What did it say? Gender neutral or gender balanced? Is this how we choosing people for the FAA? We got to make sure it's gender balanced. I'm not saying that that's the implications, but if this is how we've been running, if Rachel Levine was was in charge of Health and Human Services, if Pete Buttigieg was the transportation secretary, I don't know. We don't know to what extent all of this foolishness, how far up and how many federal agencies were impacted by this thinking. But if it's any indication to how how that was run, if the way things have been run these past 4 years and the federal government looked anything like that, we should be concerned. We should be very concerned. And we have to clean house and just start from scratch. Because something as simple as air traffic control and federal aviation, no, I can't be having gender balanced discussions. I need to know, are you skilled at preventing aircraft A from colliding into aircraft B? And depending on how you answer that question is going to determine if we can talk some more. But if you come in there, I'm like the first Afro-Latina who, eats chimichangas and oxtails at the same time. Like, what? No. Don't call us. We'll call you. We gonna check your email. Just keep checking your email. And you just be checking it in perpetuity. Anyway, let me go. Let me acknowledge these super chats before I get on up out of here. Fuzzy Balls. Fuzzy. I need you to maybe consider, and try to tell you what to do, pick a different name, because I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you a tennis aficionado? I don't know, but Fuzzy says Barack Obama was the Jamal Bryant of the Democratic Party, and now that he's in the background, they are trying to expound upon that satanic agenda. You know what? That's a good point. That is a very good point. Thank you so much for that super chat, Fuzzy. I love the little doggy with the tennis balls, but I just feel weird saying that. I think you did that on purpose, because you like seeing content creators squirm when we have to read your YouTube avatar name. But thank you so much. I agree with what you're saying there. Spirit Fruit Orchard. Hey, girl. She said, oh, my goodness. Eyelashes should be tired. Listen. Everything can't be for everybody. I get it. I think on some level, a lot of these trends are coming into play, and they're becoming popularized, and we're seeing what we see like on reality TV and our favorite superstars and influencers, and we're like, ooh, when I do it, I'm gonna look like that. But when we do it, we don't. I'm with Spirit. They was a little heavy. They were caterpillar, like Snuffleupagus was what it was given. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm new to the Lash game, and to be honest, I never liked them. I always hated them. And then you kind of play around and experiment. You be like, okay, I was doing team too much that day. No, let's tone it down. You should still look like yourself. You should still look like yourself. She didn't look like herself. We don't know what herself looked like, but it wasn't herself. He said, Fuzzy said, I can care less their qualifications if they have a septum piercing. You know what? I am inclined to be. I'm Team Fuzzy today. You know why? I've had this conversation with young people who they may be 20 or 25 and they may not get it today, but how this plays out in the reality of their life, they're gonna get it eventually. This trend of, especially with females, men too, putting tats on your face, all of this, right? Piercing everything that's visible. When you don't have to like it, but it doesn't make it any less true. How you present yourself to the world, people are going to make a judgment. And when you represent a brand or a business or a corporation or an organization, there are just some things like they don't want their brand associated with Young Thug and his crew. Or, they don't want to hire you if you look like you part-time, work doing OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, these things used to be self-evident truths that now we actually have to sit young people down and say, listen, I know you want to put a tattoo on your face, but unless you plan to be independently wealthy and work for yourself for the rest of your life, that is an unwise decision, and I would advise against it. But instead, they living in the moment, and they're like, well, I mean, me putting this tattoo on my face, people shouldn't judge me by that. Yeah, but they are. Because it's saying what was going on in your mind that you planned ahead, picked a design, sat on the thing, let them fire up the needle, and commence to dabbing you in your face like that. Like, why are you doing that? It's permanent. Like, once it's on there, it's kind of on there. The same thing. Listen, there is no biblical admonition that says you cannot have a tattoo. That's not my argument. So don't think I'm being legalistic. It's a personal preference. I just don't think that it's just not my thing. I don't have any tattoos. I told all my children, when you leave this house, you can write whatever you want on yourself. But when you live here under my rules, no, you cannot get a tattoo. Now, if you choose to get a tattoo, when you leave here, I'm still going to feel some sort of kind of way, and you're going to hear my mouth, but ain't nothing I could do about it because you've grown. But I would hope that you've been around your mama long enough to know if my mama see this tattoo, she ain't gonna never let me live it down. She ain't gonna never let me live it down. Because I'm gonna just be looking at you like, look at you. Like, why would you do that? What was you thinking? You look crazy. Especially if it's somewhere I can see it. You better put it where I don't see it. I'm like, you was raised wrong. And now this is a reflection of me. I raised you wrong. Where did I go wrong? We're not doing tattoos on the face. We're not doing that. Anyway. Hey, Bob. Thank you so much for that super chat. He said, you, Chad O. Jackson, Vince Ellison, take notes. That's my crew. That right there, that is my crew. I was just with Chad and Vince earlier this month. We wrapped up the taping of his documentary on MLK. Vince is in that. Chuck Littleton is in that. It is going to be an amazing documentary. And so I was up there for that. And we're actually going to do a live event here in Atlanta. So the same kind of event that I did for Vince Ellison, with his documentary, Will You Go to Hell for Me? We're going to be doing the same thing for Chad's film, probably around April. So I don't want to tell too much about it. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. And I'm super excited about that. Standard House Media, my media company, is in charge of orchestrating all of that. So it's a collaborative effort along with Ace Productions and Chad's media company. There's some Black conservatives out here who are doing some really great work because we really believe in this and we really do want to change lives and educate all Americans. Like my kinsman according to the flesh needed to know about Blanch Bruce, right? They needed to know about him. They needed to know that there was a senator from the state of Mississippi that was actively advocating for them to function in their freedom. He's teaching Black kids how to read and enacting legislation to fight back against some of the ills that he was experiencing at the hands of the Democrats. But that's a part of history the Democrats don't want to talk about, because then they would have to admit that they were the ones enacting the oppression. And then what that would do is bring the attention on them. And Black folks today be like, well, y'all kind of are the same ones that's still doing that today. This is why I create content like this. Because one, it serves two purposes. I need Black people and white people to be able to analyze this history and not sanitize it. We need to be comfortable talking about George Washington and his slaves, and we need to be comfortable talking about people, freed Blacks that fought in the Union Army and slaves that fought for the Confederacy. Like, we need to be able to just have those conversations. We should not shy away from that. We should not romanticize or sanitize any of this. And we should be asking questions. Why didn't they exercise their Second Amendment right when they had the right to vote since the 15th Amendment? Where was the Black male valiant behavior and bravery? Why was there so much cowardice? The Indians fought, even if they got their behind kicked, they fought back. I told you, slavery was never about, we gonna enslave Blacks because they Black. It was like the weak and the strong. And I have to accept the fact that there were too many of my people who were weak and allowed themselves to be subjugated. And now there's no reason for us to continue to allow ourselves to be subjugated. But we keep voting for our oppressor because we love a master. We love his dirty draws. That's why they keep voting for them Democrats. They love him. They love looking around, voting for them same Jerome Crow Negroes, Jasmine Crockett, Hank Johnson, Maxine Waters, James Clyburn. They love voting for those Jerome Crow Negroes. They love making them rich, and they love selling their people a pipe dream and making empty promises. And it's just a cycle of oppression until enough people wake up and be like, it's them. They the ones doing this to us. Always crying racism, always talking about we oppressed and victims. And it's their policies that are doing this to us. I just want to talk about it. That's it. And in some hard sayings, like, I mean, if Frederick Douglass has to tell you that it is a natural human response to fight back. If you're not, if you don't, expect to be pitied. Expect to be pitied. And I'm not a pet. I don't want your pity. I don't want your DEI. I don't want your affirmative action. I don't want your handouts. I don't want it. So anyway, all right, you guys. It's super late. It's like 11:24. I can't believe I went this long. Spirit Fruit Orchard. Okay, we have some more. Let me get these two. Hold on. Fuzzy said septum piercings are a submission to Baal. I did not know that. Now, I knew they had some pagan origins. Absolutely. I just didn't make the connection between Baal worship and the septum piercings. a lot of us do things and we don't know its origins. We just think it's a fashion statement. And I'm sorry, I'm not putting holes in my nose. I'm just not doing that. But hey, whatever floats your boat. If you like it, I love it. Spirit Fruit Orchard says, what came to mind when she came on talking about being tired and fired was, thank goodness DEI has died. Oh, listen, Spirit Fruit Orchard got jokes tonight. You know what? I'm glad. I am so glad. I can see why. Because I'm just like, ma'am, come on now. I'm like, do you guys think that these people ever get tired of whining and crying? Or is it a sport now? It's a sport, and now it's like an athletics competition to where they get strength training from it. Running in the Victim Olympics, who's the most suppressed demographic? Don't vote us out in the first round, or if so, I was discriminated against. I mean, this is really unsustainable. They demonstrated by the confusion in all of the rounds of voting and how was it supposed to work, that this is unsustainable, but they're too prideful to admit it. So I'm hoping they continue to spin their wheels and do more of this. Please do more of this, Democrats. I think this is a good move for you. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'm out. It's so late. I can't eat this late. I love you guys with the love of the Lord. Don't take no wooden nickels. And until next time, grace and peace.